Hey guys, it's Scott with Scottie B Cards. In this video, I want to talk about 3 players and what their projections are heading into 2023. Every single year, I see these projections from Baseball Reference and from Fangraphs. Fangraphs has zip projections, while Baseball Reference, I don't know what they use, but it's on their page. It just says projections, and that's for next year. And it always makes me wonder what will happen to a player's cards if this projection happens exactly as it's predicted. Currently, Fangraphs projections for zips, which predicts 3 years for the next 2023, 2024, 2025, it's not available yet. So I'm looking at just Baseball Reference, but I can still get a lot of information from that and look at the card market to see what might happen if this comes to fruition. But before we start, if you are a sports card, trading card, baseball card fan, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you already are subscribed to the channel, hit that like button. Helps other people find the channel, and I really appreciate it. So let's look at Mike Trout. We can see Mike Trout currently has 3 MVPs. He actually has the most Silver Sluggers ever for the American League, and on top of that, he I think is only like 3 behind Barry Bonds. We can look at Mike Trout and see he's been very good. You know, this last year, he still had a 178 OPS plus. The league average is 100, so he was 78% better than league average this year in a down year where we hit 40 home runs and 80 RBI. It was a pretty good season. Crazy stat, he only had 1 stolen base, which if he wanted to have more, he could because he has top sprint speed. I think he's like 95th percentile. But Mike Trout, if we look at his projections, we see a massive drop off in performance. So we see for Mike Trout's age 31 season, we see only 28 homers, 67 RBI, a 275 batting average with a 915 OPS. If we look at Mike Trout's stats, you'll see his OPS right here has never been below 939 besides his debut in his rookie season prior to his full rookie season because he won Rookie of the Year the next year. He's never ever had an OPS even remotely that low. His lowest OPS since this one season of 939 was actually 988, 963 from his first 2 years. So it just shows you it's going to be very hard, I think, for Mike Trout to drop all the way this low. But I think this is taking into consideration that he might get injured. Something along those lines because we've seen some injury problems with Mike Trout in the past. This last year, Mike Trout finished 8th in MVP voting, which he probably shouldn't have. Should have finished higher, in my opinion, because he actually was ahead of almost every single person, I think, besides the top 3 in counting stats. So he probably should have been top 5th or 6th or so. Either way, Shohei Ohtani stole all of the thunder for Angels fans, and deservingly so. But if we look at Mike Trout, I do not think he will have that bad of a season, assuming he can be relatively healthy. And obviously, for counting stats, these might be accurate if he only plays that many games, but his advanced stats like on-base percentage and slugging and OPS, I doubt they'll be this low. I don't think Mike Trout's slugging is going to revert back to his 2016 self when he was 24. His lowest slugging in the last how many years is a 603. So that's a 50-point drop. I just don't see that happening. So I think his floor is about 950 for his OPS next year. His ceiling, as always, is about an 1100 OPS if he can get to this range again with some decent health. I want to show what his card market has done so far and what you might expect if he does have this season. For most players, a 915 OPS is amazing. That's fantastic. That's a very good season, and you would see 95% of players increase in value. But we saw Mike Trout had a 6-WAR season, 999 OPS with a OPS plus of 178, actually decreased by 43%. This is the cooling off market. Yes, this is year over year, and this is his index from Card Ladder. But overall, I do think this is a bit extreme. And I want to show you right here. You can see his actual drop off from the last few years is even more drastic. He's basically almost pre-pandemic levels of where his values were, which is nuts. And so I do want to show he's dropping right now, and that's with a good season. I think people were disappointed in the fact the Angels were so bad again because there was so much hope for a big year. He had injury problems again, but overall still had a good year, and it didn't make sense why he dropped 42%. So the reason I'm saying this is if Mike Trout has this season right here, you're going to see this graph go a lot lower. It's going to go probably to about 2018, 2019 days, and you're going to have some great buying opportunities for Trout. If he beats those expectations, I think he'll level off. I don't think he's going to increase too much unless he's in the running for MVP again for his 4th MVP award. Then I do think we see an increase, but he has to have a very good year in order to do that. So that is Mike Trout. That's my take on his cards and his projections heading into next year. I do also want to show that his Bowman Chrome autograph, that was a BGS 9.510 refractor. If we go look, you can see it was $63,000 instead of $10,000. That is an 82% drop in the last 2 years. Just shows how far he's fallen, even though he's not had a bad year this last year. Let's look at Yordan Alvarez. So I picked Yordan Alvarez because I think he's probably the one young guy I'm the most excited about, not named Juan Soto. And maybe Julio Rodriguez is up there as well. I think he's awesome. Julio Rodriguez for the Mariners, he's going to be a star. But for Yordan Alvarez, I wanted to look at his numbers. He had a top 3 MVP finish this year, Silver Slugger and All-Star appearance, 6.8, almost 7 WAR for a primary DH is crazy. And his projections also show a pretty big step backwards. If he has this year though, next year, I don't think it's going to impact his market drastically like it will Trout. It's a very similar line to Trout, honestly, besides batting average being a little bit higher and his on base being a little bit higher, slugging a little bit lower. But I think it's almost exactly the same OPS, a 915 versus a 913. So they're projecting them to be basically the same player. And I think if Yordan does that next year, his cards won't go up a ton, but I think that they might have some, stability. But I do think Yordan beats this projection next year. I think this is a very tough projection based off of what we've seen and from everything besides his 2021 campaign. So basically 2019 and 2022, and even the start of the postseason. I know he slowed down in the postseason, but Yordan, I think, is going to be around for a long time. If we look at his numbers in comparison to primary DH or primary slugger-focused hitters with not much defense, I have on this graph Yordan Alvarez, Ryan Howard, Edgar Martinez, David Ortiz, Frank Thomas, and Harold Baines. Everybody on this graph not named Ryan Howard and Yordan are Hall of Famers. So these 4 are Hall of Famers, and I want to show where he's at in comparison to them in their careers. This is all based off of WAR, which is wins above replacement. That means how much value he provides over a replacement level player at that position. So you'll see Yordan Alvarez is above everybody not named Frank Thomas. If you don't realize how good offensively Frank Thomas was, go look at his baseball reference page. It's truly insane how much he did. But he is basically ahead of everybody else because all these other players had late resurgent years in their career that really made them the Hall of Famers that they are. Primarily, you'll see David Ortiz. He actually started around here becoming the solid player in age 28 to 30, while you're going to see Harold Baines just be a stat accumulator. And we saw around age 31, Edgar Martinez had his big boost. So if Alvarez, as a slugger primary player who's going to play DH for the majority of his career and just be a pure power hitter with high batting average, high home run totals, and a decent OPS consistently, this is a very good place to be because he's beating his competition of where his competition needs to be. I did include Ryan Howard just to show that he was in the same pace as these other Hall of Famers, and then he tore his Achilles. It was never the same player. So that can always happen to Yordan Alvarez, not wishing that upon him, obviously. But it's one of those things where injuries could prevent him to do it. But overall, I think he's in a better spot than most people think. I want to look at his baseball savant numbers. First of all, look at this spray chart. He has home runs literally everywhere. Pretty impressive, actually. And you'll see a lot of 100s. That means he was literally top in all of Major League Baseball in these categories. He was 100th percentile, better than everybody else in average exit velocity, barrel percentage, expected batting average, almost there in walk percentage, expected slugging percentage and hard hit percentage, and almost max exit velocity. So he's good. The only thing he was low in is sprint speed, and it's not showing here because he didn't play much defense, but outs above average. He would have been low there as well. So Yordan, very impressive player, and this is where his cards are. They're up 4% from a very big season, from year over year, and having a good playoffs. Well, that one big home run in, I think, game 5 or 6 of the World Series. And I think he needs to have another good year next year, but if he meets those projections, I think he'll be fine. If he exceeds those projections, if he has another 7 WAR season next year, people will be talking about Yordan Alvarez cards much more. For that reason, I think he presents a very interesting buying opportunity. Not saying ever to buy anybody, but he's one that people are speculating on currently. And the last player is Aaron Judge. He is such an interesting case study. And if you had asked me last year, I would have said Aaron Judge has almost no chance at the Hall of Fame. I did not include on accident his career total WAR numbers. He has 37 WAR after his age 30 season. Prior to his age 30 season, he was only like at 26 WAR. 26 WAR through age 29 season, that's not a good sign because usually you slow down in your 30s. But Judge had one of the best offensive seasons that we've seen in the history of Major League Baseball. That sounds drastic, but there's a stat called OPS plus, and not many players have an OPS plus of 211 or higher. I bet you Barry Bonds, maybe Sammy Sosa, not many others at all have ever been able to do this. Mike Trout hasn't done this in one given year. So one thing about Aaron Judge is his ceiling is very, very high. One thing about Aaron Judge is he has a lot of years where he doesn't do this, right? He did it in 2017 and 2022, but everything in between was a good season. It wasn't like like a all-time great season, and it doesn't have to be every year, but they were just good. While Mike Trout generally has great seasons every year, Aaron Judge has had a couple really good seasons, and that's not going to get him to the Hall of Fame and where he needs to be. So he's projected next year right here for 41 homers, 99 RBI, 288 batting average, 953 OPS. That's a good season. That's not the season I think Judge could have. If Judge has this year right here, it'll be a top 10 MVP finish for the New York Yankees if he re-signs with them, and if that happens, his cards will probably increase, but they also might decrease if he's not able to match this performance, especially if he leaves the Yankees. That's a lot of speculation, but we'll just say in a vacuum he re-signs with the Yankees, that won't drop his cards. But overall, Aaron Judge has to do a lot for the next 2 years. He needs to have not this big of a season, but just another 50 home run season or two, and if he does, I think he'll cement himself as a potential Hall of Famer. And 2 more years of that puts him on pace for probably 400 to 500 home runs, and I think that's what he needs to do to get to that point. So for Aaron Judge, his cards have gone up 90% year over year, which is crazy, while everybody else in this down market is going down drastically. So he needs to have another big season to maintain these high levels, or he will cool off. So if he does this projection right here, I think his cards potentially stay the same or drop. I don't see him increasing much more, but if he can beat this projection, I think he could go significantly higher, as Hall of Fame collectors who collect Hall of Famers only speculate on him making the Hall of Fame at this point. I do want to show that his Baseball Savant percentile rankings are just as high as Jordan Alvarez's. He has an average exit velocity of 100 percentile, a hard hit percentage 100 percentile, walk percentage in 99th percentile. His sprint speed for being this tall is 50th percentile, arm strength 93rd percentile, and outs above average 85th percentile. Swings and misses a lot, but that's who he is as a player. But this is impressive because he's still a above average to a Gold Glove caliber defender in right field, and that just shows that for the long term, he's actually in a really good spot in comparison to other sluggers of his caliber, like a Giancarlo Stanton. I also want to show him in comparison to Mike Trout, and just to show this is like the guaranteed Hall of Famer path, and this is the same exact path. You look at Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays, it almost lines up perfectly to them, and Aaron Judge has a lot of work to do to catch up to that point. Could he do it? Absolutely. Could he fail? Absolutely. We're at a point now where you have to speculate, and if you believe in Aaron Judge, it could be a good time to buy, or you might want to wait because he is up 90% year over year, essentially. So those are the 3 players I want to highlight today. Let me know if you believe in any of them. If you don't believe in any of them, I'm sure I'll see some Mike Trout slander in the comments, and that's totally fine. But other than that, guys, thank you for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.